something else that's really important when in ensuring that your site is kept safe is to, generally speaking, avoid downloading themes and plugins that are being offered for free that are otherwise premium themes and plugins. I know you may go to Google and you may see, links to sites that, that are offering you free downloads for like I said, plugins and themes that, basically the developers are selling. And you have to be careful. Now, I'm not saying that they're all bad, but one of the reasons that, people do this, and it's not necessarily illegal either, depending on the license for the particular plugin or theme, but one of the reasons that people give away themes, and if you think about it, if it's a paid plugin or a theme, why is this person giving it away for free? And one of the reasons that they do this is to, implant malicious code onto your site. And in some cases, it may be as harmless as hiding a backlink to one of their sites. But it could also be backlinks to sites that, such as porn or sites with illegal downloads that, would not do well for your search engine optimization. So you have to be careful of that. And then it could be as extreme as code that tracks your keystrokes and records your password, and then later on you try to log into your site and it's been taken over completely by a hacker. So that's something you have to be careful of. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about in terms of, securing your site is that, and you should always keep regular backups of your WordPress site, and that's your database, your files. Keep regular backups. If you use your site pretty regularly in terms of updating content, then you may need to update it as frequently as every day. Usually once a week would be fine for most people, but it really is up to you depending on how often you use your site. Because like I've mentioned a lot of things that you can do to protect your site, but the reality is that there's no foolproof method for any platform, and WordPress is no exception, for persons to hack into your site. If they're determined enough, if they have enough resources, you see sites, some big name sites online get hacked all the time. Government sites, and these sites will have far better security measures than you probably would have on your site, and these sites have been hacked. So a great thing to have is a good backup of your site that you can restore, so that as soon as you find that your site is down, you can get in contact with your hosting company, or just erase all the malicious code, change your password, and then you can install a clean version of your site, but something that's up to date, so that you don't lose a lot of your content that you've worked so hard to create. So in the next video, I'm actually going to look at and show you, there are many ways to do this, many plugins. You can do this through your hosting account, but I'm just going to show you one quick way to do it in the next video. In the last video, we looked at adding plugins to our site from the WordPress repository, and another way that we can add plugins is from a zip file. So if you have a premium plugin, or if you downloaded a plugin from anywhere other than the repository and you have it in a zip file, then you would just go plugins, add new, and go to upload. Choose file, and then you would just locate it wherever it is on your PC or your Mac, and I have this plugin on my desktop, WP Options, and I will just install. And then again, like I said, whenever the plugin is installed, you will have the option to activate, and then from there you can configure the additional settings if there are any. Right, so once that is done, the uploading of the plugin, you can just activate your plugin, and this particular plugin actually asks for a license key. You get the gist of how it is to add a plugin. I'm not going to add my license key in this video, of course. And so, like I said, this would fall under the additional configuration or settings once you've activated the plugin. But that's just how simple it is. If you have a plugin from a zip folder, and based on the plugin, you'd know what to do next. So that's how you get it into your site. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is look at how we can install plugins on our site. And I'll just go, to do this, we go to plugins. And plugins are additional bits of code or software that just extend the functionality of our site. You can do anything from adding a support desk to adding social media. There are video plugins, just about anything that you can think of, there's a plugin for it. And there are some default plugins that would be installed, and just as there were default themes that were installed. And Akismet is just an anti-spam plugin. It's free for basic blog. So if you do allow comments on your site, this may be something that you'd be interested in. Hello Dolly is another plugin that comes pre-installed. Usually I don't use these, however, I have other options that I use for anti-spam. So, and it's a good practice that if you're not using plugins on your site, that you delete them, because they can conflict with each other and cause your site to do some crazy stuff or slow down the processing time of your site. So if you find lags, and of course there are security issues if you're not using a plugin, then you may not update it as regularly as you should because you're not using it. But even if the plugin is not being used, it still may present some vulnerability issues. So if you're not using a plugin, I just advise that you just go ahead and delete it, and all you have to do is just select and delete and apply. Okay? But to add a new plugin, it's really quite simple. It's very similar to adding themes, and you just select add new, and we will see a similar search button that will just allow you to search for the particular plugin. So like I said, there are so many things. If you need a Facebook plugin to help share your posts and pages, there are plugins for Wordpress, which is a social media functionality that you can add to for email, for images, for sidebars, shortcodes, YouTube. There's so many options. These are some of the more popular categories, so if you if you need something in particular, you just go ahead and say you want to have a dig plugin to help share your posts. Then you just type that in, and you will be presented with a list of plugins. The wonderful thing about this is that the plugins will have ratings beside them, which other WordPress users have used too. So these plugins with the darker stars, have received great reviews from other users, and all you'd have to do is you can check out, this is a brief description of the plugin, and all you have to do is just select install now and just confirm that you want to install the plugin, and it really is as simple as that, and the plugin will be installed. And depending on the plugin and what it does, then you'll be presented with some options. And this is of course after you activate the plugin, because you can have plugin installed and not activated. So pardon me, if you just activate it, then usually there will be a link back to the plugin site, so you could find out more about the plugin, and this will link back to either wordpress.org or individual website. And similar to the theme, then there will be an option on the left hand side for you to configure the plugin if there are settings, and sometimes these options may appear under the settings, so it really does vary depending on what the plugin does. Okay, so in the next video I'll show you how to install a plugin from a zip file. In this video I just want to look at users and how we can edit user profiles, how we can create new users, and some of the functionalities that are available to users. Now, if you look in the top right hand corner, you will see Howdy DHWPVS. And this is just a name that I've assigned to the user, that level that I am logged in as, which is an admin user, and I can go in and edit my profile. And in this area, I'll be able to do things like disable the visual editor when writing. I can change the color scheme. Right now it's using default, but I could go ahead and select something like coffee, and you will see that the color scheme has changed. Let me put it back to the default. You can enable keyboard shortcuts for comment moderation, show toolbar when viewing sites, and this is what happens when we are currently logged in. That's that bar that appears at the very top that I spoke about. And in this area you can just add some additional information, and this information will affect your author information when you create posts. So if I put my name there, and then I can create a nickname, Johnny, or I can put Jack, and then I'll have the option to display a name publicly that may be separate or different or a shortened version of my full name. So for example, I could put Jack for my posts and pages, or I could put my full name, John Brown, and we can also change our contact information here, put a link back to our website, some additional bio information, and in this area we can also go ahead and change our password that we use to log in. And all you simply have to do is just put in a new password, repeat the new password, and then update the profile. Now the next thing I want to look at, and if you just look at the top here, you will see that now it is saying John Brown instead of DHVPS, which it was showing before. because this is what I've selected to show as my public name. But the next thing we want to look at is under the users tab. You see users. We can view all the users that are on our site, and you can see there's only one, which is me. And you can just see the role, which is administrator. And if we go to add new, we can add additional users based on the levels. Now, let me just give you an idea of what the particular, of course you would put the username, email, first name, last name, etc. and create a password. But what's actually most important is the role of this user. Okay, so at the very highest, which is the administrator, let me start with that one. And the administrator can do everything on the website. They can add posts, pages, edit posts and pages, and change additional functionality, change themes, plugins, and like I said, do just about everything. An editor would not have access to change plugins and themes and other such functionality, but they would be able to add content such as posts and pages and edit the content of other users. Okay? An author would be able to add content such as posts, but would only be able to edit that content that they have created. So they wouldn't be able to edit other authors' content. An editor could do that, but not an author. A contributor would be able to create content. So a contributor could create a post. So for example, if you have a guest blogger who you allow to create a blog post on your site, they'll be able to create the post, but the post would remain unpublished until either an editor or an administrator approves it. And last but not least is the role of a subscriber, and the subscriber is basically only able to view content that has been created on your site. Okay? A subscriber would not be able to create content or edit content. They'd just be able to view. Okay? So, depending on the type of site you're running, you may want to have multiple authors to create content on your site. You may want an additional administrator to do maintenance and updates. Or if you just have, say, a membership site, you'd want to allow subscribers to be able to access your content. Okay, and that's it for users. In this video, we are going to use a free plugin called WP Up to back up our site. And to do this, we just select plugin and add new. And we search for back WP Up. Search plugins. And it should be the first one there. Back WP Up 3 WordPress Backup Plugin. And we're going to use this plugin to back up to Dropbox. Dropbox is a free cloud storage service. And the reason we want to back up to Dropbox is, well, really two reasons. Number one is that Dropbox, when we back up to Dropbox, it's on its own separate server. Because sometimes when your site gets hacked, if your site is down, maybe an attack on your entire server and not just your site. So if you're backing up to, and if we just activate the plugin, and if you're backing up to your own server and your server goes down, then you'd be in big trouble because you've lost your site and you've lost your backups. The second reason why I like to back up to Dropbox is that Dropbox has a desktop app that allows you to synchronize whatever you have in their cloud storage platform straight to your PC. So you'll have it backed up online, and you have it backed up on your PC. And there is a free option with Dropbox. You get up to 2 gigabytes free, and there is also the option to upgrade, and you can also increase the storage, your free storage, by referring friends. And I'll just give you a link where you can sign up and get some free storage just for signing up through that link, apart from the 2 gigabytes. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and start to use back WP up. And the first thing we want to do is select jobs. And then we are going to just click jobs. And then we're going to add a new job. And the first tab we have is the General tab. So you want to name the job for your purposes. I'm just going to call this My Backup. Then the next thing is the job tasks, and this is just where you determine what you back up, and the defaults are fine, the database, the files, and the installed plugins list. And the next thing we look at is the archive name, which just creates a timestamp. This default is fine, you don't need to adjust this. The next thing is the archive formats, and this is just the method of compression so that your backups will be faster, because as you can imagine, you're backing up your entire site, so you can use a zip, a tar zip, or a tar bzip2. Now the default is fine, so you can just leave it as is. And the next thing that we would look at is the job destination, and this is, of course, where you would send the backup to, and you can back up to a folder, backups by email, backup to FTP. As I mentioned, we're going to back up to Dropbox for reasons that I mentioned before, but you can also send to email, Amazon S3, SugarSync, all the other options are there. And you can use more than one option, but I prefer just to use Dropbox to keep it simple. And email, the next thing is our log files, and email is required. And you'll just receive an email if there are errors during job execution. Okay, so this just is to ensure that everything goes okay. The next thing that we would look at is the Schedule tab. We just go back up, and you want to select with WordPress cron, and this just uses a feature within your hosting account to utilize automatic backups. Next thing is the type. You want to select basic. And then now you have the scheduler. So you have the option to back up daily, hourly, weekly, monthly. Now, weekly will be fine for most people. And this really is up to you, depending on how often you update your site. And if you really require daily or hourly backups, as in you need to back up that often because you're adding content that often, then you may actually need to look at the premium option. Now, on the weekly, and the time you see the 3 for the hour just means 3 a.m. and you can do it at 3:25 or 3:30, whatever it is. I find that Sunday at this time, 3 a.m. in the morning is a good time. You probably don't have a lot of visitors in your site. And just one thing to note is that if you use this plugin for a lot of your sites, then you want to stagger the backup times so that you don't overload your server. So the next tab is our database backup, and these are the WordPress tables that are included. You really don't need to change this at all. So we can move on to our next tab, which is our files. And here you can determine what files you include or exclude. Again, the default is fine. But for example, you may want to exclude themes from your backups, because you should be easily able to restore your themes either from the repository, or if you bought a theme, you should be able to get the download back pretty easily. One thing you may choose to do is just maybe back up the current theme that you're using. Okay, so the next tab that we look at is the plugins tab. And this just creates a file with the names of all your plugins and whether or not they were activated. And this will just take the name of your site. And in terms of file compression, you can leave it at none, because it just creates a small text file with a list of plugins. So we can next look at the Dropbox tab. And this is specific because we chose to use Dropbox. So if I just jump over to Dropbox, and I'm just going to go over and log in. And like I said, Dropbox is absolutely free. So I'm going to log in, because we will need to authenticate with Dropbox using their API to ensure that this process works seamlessly. So we're going to use re-authenticate full Dropbox. We're not going to use the sandbox option. We're going to use the full Dropbox option. And just for the backup settings, the folder that will be used in Dropbox is WP Video Sidekick. That's defaulted based on the name. The file deletion. Okay, this allows you to choose a number of files that you keep in the folder. Now, by default, it is 15. And since I'm updating weekly, this means that I have 15 weeks of backups inside my folder. Now, I don't need this many backups, because, you know, if your site goes down, you probably know in a couple of days or a couple of weeks. So I will choose a number like 4, which means I'll have 4 weeks, which is a full month of backups. But it really is up to you. You can choose how many backups that you need. Just keep in mind that all the backups will be deleted once you reach this number. So we can go ahead now and authenticate. And this will take us over to the Dropbox site. And since I'm already logged in, I will see the screen. And we just need to click allow to authenticate. And if you weren't logged in, you'd be asked to log in, and then you could click allow. So once you see the sign that says authenticated, then we're pretty much finished. You want to save all your changes. Make sure you save all your changes. And the next thing you want to do is to do a run now, to test it, to make sure that everything works. And this shouldn't take long, so I'm just going to run it right now. Right now our site is quite small, so it shouldn't take much time. And you will see where the plugin is getting to work, and what's happening is that it is copying our sites based on the specifications that we made. And now 2 things are actually happening. It is backing up our site to Dropbox online in the cloud storage, and it's also backing up to our desktop because I have the app installed, which synchronizes. So it's just about finished. It shouldn't take much longer. Right, so there we go, 100%. And if there were any problems, you would receive an error message, you know, to say exactly what went wrong. In this case, everything went perfectly fine. And if you just look to the bottom of my screen, you will see that it's now been synchronized with my PC. So I have a copy now on my PC, which I can use, which is safe. I can, again, if I wanted to back this up somewhere else, like a thumb drive or external hard drive, I could do that. And it's also at our Dropbox folder online. There you go, in the folder we assigned. So there we go. Now you have automatic backups for your site, so you can sleep knowing that your site is continuously being backed up automatically. So that is it for this tutorial.